We are back. We are back, and no different than it ever is. Lessons to be learned, drama, aha moments, the whole 9 yards. You know, everything that you get on Queen Sugar. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Queen Sugar. This is season 6, episode 1. Listen, I had to laugh because, you know, I was under the impression that the show was actually leaving the air at the end of last season. And I was like, really, I was pissed. I was heartbroken as well, but I was pissed. But no, everything got renewed and we're back, and I'm very, very happy about it. So I'm going to go ahead and run through this first episode, which was really good, and it did have all of the things that we fell in love with Queen Sugar about. But the lesson is how fast, when everybody is not on the same page, how quickly things can escalate into something that really is unnecessary, really. I'm going to get into it, but listen, let's start here. Aunt Vi and Ralph Angel are still not speaking. They're still not speaking. Blue is doing well away at school. Everybody is pretty much really maneuvering and getting comfortable with their new normal. Aunt Vi is just evil. She's still evil. She's still fighting. Ralph Angel is more like her than we'd even care to discuss. And that's why they have the problems they have. But neither one wants to budge. Hollywood is like, I am not being in the middle of this. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I don't blame them. It's a mess. Charlie is actually in California. And she's doing some political running that she has to do. But all in the midst of that, she's over there messing around with Davis. Her and Davis are hot and heavy. There was some talk about the fact that they're back together. That's what it is, in short. They're back together, and they've been keeping it a secret, but they're going to have to go to the family first. She said, we have to go to the family first and talk about where we are and what it is that we're doing. And, you know, that's that. Davis is like, listen, I'm here. I'm all for it. He is very happy with linking back up with Charlie and all of this, so he's fine. They also had some conversation about her pursuing more things in politics, and he told her by all means that he would be behind her 100%. That it's time for her to live in her season, and he'll support her the way that she supported him. And he became famous, and that's fine. And, you know, achieved his goals. So they're on the same page. Who knows what's going to happen with the family. Right away with Micah. Micah's in school doing his thing. He was FaceTiming with Charlie. And he seemed a little preoccupied. But I was like, okay, what is Micah doing? You know, Micah drives me crazy. And there's always some drama with Micah. I said, well, what is it? What is this going on with Micah? Baby, Micah is a sophomore, and Micah is screwing his professor. She's sharp. Now she's sharp, and baby, he's over there sticking it to her, honey. I said, oh, Micah. Oh, Micah. Listen, by all means, have a good time. Her, by all means, sis, suck all the youth out of him. Go right ahead. But Micah ain't strong like that. Micah is going to have a problem. First of all, Charlie's going to snap out when she figures it out. She's going to have a fit. Secondly, Vi's going to have a fit. But the thing, Vi may never find out, but Charlie's going to definitely have a problem with this old broad screwing her baby. Secondly, Micah not built for that kind of heartbreak that comes along with him dealing with an older woman. He's not equipped for that. So this is going to be all bad for Micah. I can see it. I can see the writing is on the wall. I can see the forest through the trees Micah is going to be an issue and a thorn in my side. He's going to drive me crazy with this. He really is. I said, look at you, laying up in the bed with that grown woman. I said, okay, Micah. But that's going to be a whole mess. Okay, so let's see. Who else? Nova. Nova is working on a whole situation about defunding the New Orleans police force. And I'm like, girl, you going after their money? So you really pushing it. You're really pushing it. And she's done some stuff on TV, on the website, and she's really out there pushing for the defunding of the New Orleans police force. It's like, okay, cool. We end up seeing her having this little private meeting in a car in the rain with this Chez person that's on the inside. He's an officer. He's on the inside. And she was assuring him that, you know, it's no problem. You're safe with me. I never give up my, you know, my sources. And she said, you know, I will take things to the grave. That's just how I get down. Everything's going to be fine. I'll make sure that you never get exposed. And you could see the fear in him. And they talked about the fact that, you know, there was more things going on than just the stuff that happened with Calvin and his little crew and his cronies. There's a lot of other things going on. So he's spilling the beans and she's working with it. And that's that. Hollywood. Hollywood was over. There was a whole scene. This scene was really rough. Hollywood was over. He was cleaning up some of his mother's things. And he took this red fedora, pretty red fedora, and he put it on his head. He said, Hollywood, I'm going to put this red fedora on when we go down here to this casino so that you'll be able to find me, baby. And he just reminiscing about things that him and his mother, moments they had, and things that she would do that made him laugh. And he really, this scene was acted so well, which, you know, that's the thing over at Queen Sugar. They have some of the best of the best. Ava, you know, we can't say it enough. Listen, the show, top notch. The acting, some of the best that's on television. That's just the way it is. Anybody at this point, and I say this is something I say all the time. This is why I was so pissed off when I thought the show was going off. I tell people all the time, I'll say something to them about Queen Sugar. Oh, I don't watch Queen Sugar. And I'm like, you are cheating yourself. If you're a person and you like drama, you know, like nighttime drama series, and you don't watch Queen Sugar, you are completely cheating yourself. That's just all that's to it. This is one of the better that I've seen in years. This is done so well. Always has been from the door. The writing is excellent. The acting is phenomenal. The casting it's just been top notch from the beginning all the way through. Anyway, moving on. So we've seen Hollywood do that. Like I said, the scene was acted very well. It was very touching. It was rough. It was a rough scene. Moving on. Let's go back over Nova's. Nova's in a real touchy space. Like I said, Nova was going back to her house, and she's digging in her bag for her keys, and then she notices that the door is cracked open, and she's like looking, and I said, oh no. So I'm thinking when she opens the door all the way up, we're going to see that the place is just torn up or you know, something like that. No. Then we look and you see her keys on the table, and said, okay. I said, wait, is the old boyfriend back? What's going on? And then she's talking to her, so she's like, Nova, you were moving too fast. You were moving too fast this morning, and you did this. So she's trying to convince herself that she left her keys. She had left her keys at the house and didn't lock the door. For some reason, that just didn't sit well with me. That didn't seem right. And I said, no, I think you're trying to psych yourself out. Somebody is sending you a message. And that's the way I took it. As somebody sent you a message. Either someone has stolen these keys from you throughout the course of the day, or someone has made more keys. This is not, because you live in a world, you live in a realm that you would never leave your door open. So no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. But anyway, she tells herself that she was just rushing in the morning, and that was what had happened. And I said, okay, all right, girl, whatever you say. Shortly after that, we see that Ralph Angel, this was talked about earlier on, he has a lawsuit against the USDA, I think it is. I think it's the USDA, that he actually has this. It's like a class action suit, basically. And a lot of the black farmers have gotten onto it. It's all about discrimination and all of this against the black farmers. And he was talking about it. Mr. Prosper was telling him how proud of him he was for him spearheading it. But then I noticed, I said, wait a minute, Mr. Pipe Dream. He's really leaning onto this money from this lawsuit to get him out of this ditch that he's actually in financially. And we found out, basically, he has left his job that he was working at the nursing home due to COVID and not wanting to contract COVID and bring home to Darla, who's pregnant, and all of that. So for the safety of them, he's left that job, and they're just kind of struggling. The last harvest didn't work out. He's been doing these loans, and it's those little loan, those high interest corner loan shops. It's like, oh God, not, he's in that hamster wheel, and he's really dependent on the money from this case. And I'm like, see, this is where we get to this whole good times type of situation. This ain't gonna work out right for you, Ralph Angel. That would be too easy. This ain't gonna work out. And you got all your eggs in this one basket. We hear he gets a phone call later on in the episode from a collections. I said, well, who's this? And it's right after he done bought this crib. When he took the loan money, he went and got this crib for Darla. She said, I don't know about that. It's so expensive. Y'all can't afford it. If you got to take out a payday loan, you can't afford it, and you ain't got no business with it. Period. Anyway, they go ahead. The loan company is the collections on the bank loan. They're calling. He's 60 days negative. And at 90 days, they're going to foreclose on the property. I said, oh my God. So it's a whole mess. A whole mess. And then the collections agency was just as nasty on the phone. Oh, were they nasty. So nasty. Yeah, whatever. I said, who they work for? It was terrible. But anyway, he's gotten himself really into a bind. I'm like, man, you probably about 30 days past, you should have been called Charlie, because you really got an issue. I know they don't like to ask Charlie, but you, baby, you in a whole position. You can call your sister. Anyway, moving on. Aunt Vi's doing something she ain't got no business doing. They were doing like some outreach with some food and different things like that. And Vi's sneaking around, and she went to this motel, and she left a bag with some pies, some food and stuff. Somebody's at this hotel. I don't know who it is. I have no idea who it is. But whoever it is, she's hiding them from Hollywood. I don't think it's a man. It better not be Jimmy Dean. What's the name? Jimmy Dean? That X. I don't know who it is. But there's somebody that is hiding out at this motel, and Vi is sneaking and being in contact with him. I said, girl, you doing too much, Vi. You right around here with them little you see them wedges she had on? I said, girl, come on here, Aunt Vi. Aunt Vi kills me, honey, especially when she rolls out and she be dressed like the black version of Florence Jean Castleberry. I said, and that's just what that outfit was giving, honey. I said, girl, if that ain't giving, kiss my grits. Had with them little wedges. I said, little wedges. Go ahead on that. Anyway, but I don't know who that is, but I get a bad feeling about that. And I think that it's probably going to be somebody, whoever it is probably going to put a little strain on her in Hollywood. Cause she ain't got no business. She run around there sneaking and holding back information. Anyway, okay, so listen to this. Nova was doing a vaccine drive. Okay, she's doing this vaccine drive. Right before, the day before they did the vaccine drive, Nova and Mr. Prosper had this conversation. And he was telling her, you know, your mind goes to some really strange places, you know, like when we were going through everything last year, because, you know, people my age, we were being treated and basically told like we didn't matter, like we didn't count anymore. Nova, you know, assured him, you do matter and we got you. I got you always, period, no matter what's going on. So he felt really good about that. So now let's go ahead the next day to this here vaccine drive. First of all, there's all these people who were there. And the people just happened to be, they stuck out like a sore thumb because a lot of them were white. Okay? So they were white, and St. Joe's is only so big, St. Joe. And they basically all know each other. So these white folks who show up, we know you not from St. Joe, like, quit your playing. And they're showing up trying to get these free vaccinations and this, that, thing, and the other. So they're saying, you know, right away when they first got there, they were like, we don't have enough vaccines for all these people. Like, we're way over. But that's because they were being flooded with people that weren't even from St. Joe. So this is the thing. They had to re-register. They had to pre-register. And they needed to have their ID to say that they're a resident of St. Joe's. Again, we know St. Joe's is a small place. Everybody know everybody. So that's just that. Okay? So, and it just so happened, like they said, we got to walk that. We got to walk this in a very fine line because we cannot come across that we are turning away people because they are white, because that is not what we're doing. We are turning people away. One, we know that people are doing second-handed and underhanded stuff to get the vaccine, and they're jumping in lines and doing all these things. And people will come and they'll lie about being from St. Joe. Right away, there was a whole family. There's 4 of them in the car. And they had a Confederate flag on their car and all of this, all the stereotypes, all the boxes is checked. And they lying. They up there lying, baby, lying. I said, stop. Lady said, I'm a nurse, and this, that, thing, and the other, and on and on and on. And she said, well, do you have ID that proves, prove your residence? Can I see your work ID or something to prove your residency for St. Joe? Because she already knew the dang from St. Joe. They huffing and puffing, carrying on. And then they drive off. Then shortly after that, the male ends up creeping over, runs, and grabs some of the vaccine needles and runs. I'm like, what kind of crazy shit? A mess. A mess. A mess. Because they were lying, lying about, oh, I left it at work. You don't live in St. Joe, period. You don't live in the parish. Get on out of here and stop it. So this is what was actually going on. At that point, Nova decided to call the police. Just so we get some police presence here so that it doesn't turn into a riot or anything, because we already know how this goes. And it was so funny because shortly before that, Aunt Vi had actually made a comment about all of the work and the angles that Nova had been working against the police, that it just didn't seem smart to her. Like, who do you think you are to do this? And then here we go. First thing she has to do, she has to call police for backup to make sure that she doesn't have an issue with her drive. As soon as she said she's going to call the police, we see Micah. Micah's already like, he's like PTSD. So he's like, oh, Lord. I said, here we go. Here we go. So anyway, shortly after that, it's still escalating. Things are escalating. And now we got Karens on board. There's some Karens on board. There's some a few white women who are really like kicking up some dust, so to speak. One woman, there's an older lady who's back there. Of course, everybody knows her. So they go right to her and they tell her, she's like, I've been waiting since like 7 in the morning, this, that, and the other. The car in front of her, there was a white lady who basically, she just kicked up all of this dust about her skipping past her in the line and this, that, and the other. And she told her, she said, well, we're not showing favoritism. She said, do you live in St. Joe? Do you have ID to prove that you are from St. Joe? Now, the older black lady didn't have it, but you got all of the family around and other people who all know her. So they're all vouching for her. She said she had left her ID at home. And the lady just was like, that's not fair. If she doesn't have her ID, she can come back another time. And she's like, okay, well, are you from St. Joe? Do you have ID? That's not the point. You need to stay on task with the conversation. That's not the point, because she don't have it. You just kicking up dust here. But, you know, people do what they do. So at this point, Noah has called the police. The police showed up. It's like the chief. He shows up and he comes up and he's like, well, Nova, why don't, you know, if she doesn't have her ID, then she could just go home and then just come back later. She could reschedule and come back later. And Nova's like, well, he's like, doesn't that seem fair? And Nova's like, no, because we can vouch for her. We already know. And then this lady is not from St. Joe. He's like, but doesn't that seem fair? And now he's like, that's that. And he's walking off. And as he's walking off, he's like, wanting to defund the police over my dead body. I think you talk too much. See, that's the thing. They're very arrogant down there. Those police are very arrogant. So that was that. She's like, I beg your pardon. So right away I said, see the whole little thing about her door being cracked? They know exactly what she's doing. They know exactly. They feel a kind of way about her work that she's doing. And she's like, I didn't call you. I called you to come down. She's like, shame on you. I literally came down just so that you can keep the peace here. He said, I should cite you for having all these extra cars here because you're way over your limit. She's like, you know what? He was shady. Shady, shady, shady. And then right after that, there was another woman kicking up some dust. And her and Prosper are having words. And the police officer approached it, never tried to see exactly what was going on, who was right, who was wrong. He just immediately started to chastise Prosper. 1, male on female. 2, black on white. He just immediately started chastising Prosper. And Prosper told him, listen, young police officer, you know, you don't come up telling me to lower my voice. I'm just trying to explain to her, so forth and so on. Well, he's not hearing it. He's not hearing it. See, because again, the police got an attitude about this whole thing because it's attached to Nova. And now you're not listening to what Prosper has to say. You really don't give a shit. All you know is you're down here like a chaos demon. You know, you just don't care. And you pick it and choose it and you being shady. So it ended up escalating very quickly. Very quickly, because now he's not listening, and now Prosper's not listening to him because Prosper is an older gentleman, and he's now feeling disrespected by this young cop. This cop, literally, Prosper knows the cop, and the cop knows Prosper. And literally, Prosper has children, probably grandchildren, that are right beneath this boy's age. And it just went, it just, Prosper was wrong because he was saying, I'm not going to, you know, he was mouthing him back. He was mouthing back and forth with the cops. We already know how that goes. So I'm going to say Prosper's wrong for that because you already know how they go. And then he's like, that's it. It wasn't even a thing where it had to be, that's it. And he was like grabbing for Prosper and got his head like he was getting ready to arrest Prosper. And Prosper's like, get your hands off of me. take your hands off of me. And what happened in the midst of it, remember, Mr. Prosper got issues already. And Mr. Prosper is an older man. And in the midst of the little bit of it wasn't even a whole tussle, but it was just a get your hands off me. What are you talking about? Like, this conversation hasn't gone so far out that I would be being arrested. You know, he's like, take your hands off me. Mr. Prosper ended up losing his footing, and he fell, and he hit his head, and he's out. And now it's a whole mess. And they're like running. Hollywood comes running. Micah comes running. Ralph Angel comes running. Child, everybody's surrounding Prosper. Prosper's passed out on the ground. And off to the side, I don't know if y'all seen it because you got to watch. I had to run it back like 3 times to catch it. There is a white gentleman sitting on the side filming the whole thing with his phone. Now, I don't know where that's going to go, because knowing Queen Sugar, knowing St. Joe the way we know St. Joe and everything that's going on, I believe the footage from that phone is going to get the cop off of whatever happens to Prosper. I got a sneaking suspicion I think Prosper's going to be really, really hurt here, and I don't think that anybody's going to get into any trouble. And I think there's going to be something about that filming that's going to, they're going to use that to push that agenda that Prosper was resisting arrest and all. It's just one of those things where it's like, when everybody isn't on the same page and some people have their own agendas of nastiness and chaos, demonism, and it just how fast things can, you know, you always think you never know who you're dealing with. You never know who you're dealing with. Like, you can be being a real ass to a person, and you don't know that that person has something else going on somewhere earlier, and then they shoot up the whole place. When what you said wasn't really all that bad. It just, you know, just you said it to the wrong person at the wrong time. Prosper gave a little too much lip to a police officer at the wrong time. The police officer was already pissed off about something else that didn't have anything to do with Prosper. And you just see how fast that's the flaw in the humans is basically what I see it as. But that's what actually happened. Listen, let me tell you something. This is Queen Sugar at its best. When it went off and Prosper was laying on that ground, I was mad as hell. Mad as hell. Was Prosper wrong? Yes. Because you're not supposed to combat back and forth with the police. You're not. No matter how old you are. You're supposed to listen to them. That's what we're actually trained to do. To, like dogs, honey. We're trained to listen to them. Even when they're wrong. And you know that you're right. We're trained to just listen to them. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. But that's just what we're trained to do. So as far as the legal system goes, Prosper was wrong for not listening to the young man, telling the older man to lower his voice because he got an attitude about some other stuff, whereas the chaos demon really was the woman who was just kicking up dust when she's wrong in the first place for even being there. So, yeah, listen, there was a lot of little stuff there. Had me hot. I'm mad now. I don't like that shit. But this is how some of this stuff goes. It's a mess. It's a mess. But that little video situation on the side, I'm willing to bet money that's going to be the thing that really tips this off and lets the cops get away with what they did. He had no business handling Prosper like that anyway, because it hadn't escalated that badly. You know, he just put 20 on 10, and then all of a sudden you want to snatch him up and... I'm done. I'm done. Anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think about what we saw here. And did you see it differently than what I saw it? Or, you know, that's what we do on this show. We talk. So, let's do that. Let's talk. Later, you guys.